Hey everybody, welcome back. So I decided to do sort of a list of some of my kind of favorite film events that I went to over the last decade, basically. And I tried to narrow it down to a couple key ones. It's kind of hard because actually luckily there was a lot of stuff that I actually went to. But as I was going through each one, any one that sort of jumped out at me and sort of had kind of a really strong impact, I was like, you know what, those are the ones I'm going to keep because I wanted to narrow it down to a list of 10. Otherwise, this list would be really long. Some of these are a little bit general and then other ones are very specific, but I tried to kind of keep them sort of on point. Now, even though I did sort of put them in an order, that doesn't necessarily mean that the one at the bottom of the list means any less to me than the one at the top of the list. So without further ado, here are my 10 favorite film moments of the 2010s. I guess that's what we're calling it, right? So starting at number 10 is the Music Box of Horrors that I used to go to at the Music Box, which was a 24-hour film event every October, and from noon Saturday to noon Sunday, it was just 24 hours of horror films of all different kinds, and they would have guests and everything. Now, the event in general is obviously one of my favorite things. It's also one of the things I miss not being in Chicago anymore. But I did narrow it down to the times I met William Lustig there. William Lustig, one of my favorite filmmakers. He made Maniac and Vigilante and Maniac Cop. He also runs Blue Underground. Meeting him was such a big deal to me, so I have him at the Music Box of Horrors as number 10. Number 9 was definitely a very big one for me. That was back in 2013. I think it was April of 2013. I met William Friedkin, another one of my favorite filmmakers, who obviously did Exorcist, French Connection, Sorcerer, and a bunch of other amazing films. And that was a key thing for a multiple of reasons. One, during that time, I was going through a pretty rough spot personally, and this opportunity to meet him came up. Luckily, my friends sort of really pushed me to go because I was almost not gonna go because I was just in a weird place. And luckily they did, and I'm so grateful because meeting him was such a special experience. I mean, one, it was just amazing to meet him. He was so nice. And meeting him that day also really was the starting point to get me out of sort of a dark patch that I was in. Really kind of inspired me to really kind of get my life back on track and get back into really doing films again and everything. So it was monumental on so many different levels. And then number 8 from 2016 at a Days of the Dead convention in Chicago is when I met Alice Cooper, the man, the legend. That was a really amazing, like just a big deal. I mean, what an opportunity to meet someone like him. Coming up at number 7 from 2014 is when I got to see Goblin perform the Suspiria score live. And that was the first time I ever got to see anything like that, and it was amazing. I mean, the score to Suspiria, first off, is one of the most unique scores ever done, and I think a lot of people would definitely agree to that. And to hear that done live, with the film playing and they're performing it live in front of you, I mean, that was just incredible. Which then leads me to number 6, and that was seeing The Beyond live, and that was at the Music Box in 2016 with Fabio Frizzi doing the score live. Once again, that was amazing with the film playing and he's doing the score right there. That was incredible too, because even after the film was done, he and everyone with him stayed around, and then they did music from other films that he's done, including ending with one of my favorites, of course, is Lucio Fulci's Zombie. That was such an amazing night just overall. That was so incredible. Coming in at number 5 was back in 2015. I actually went to my very first Cinema Wasteland convention. Cinema Wasteland convention is one I highly recommend. It's very much like an old school convention, and I say that so lovingly. And they were doing a Day of the Dead reunion, so they had just about everybody from Day of the Dead there. So to actually go to Cinema Wasteland, which I'd wanted to go to for so long, and to have a Day of the Dead reunion, I can't tell you how special and amazing that weekend was. Definitely one of my highlights of the last 10 years. Coming up number 4 is from Flashback Weekend in 2015, and that's one of my favorite reunions as well. They were doing a Halloween, sort of a general Halloween reunion, but one of the big things was that they had a Halloween 3 reunion reunion with so many people there. That was such a great time to have that group photo op, which I absolutely love, and I get a lot of compliments on as well. And again, to have so many people there from both the cast and the crew, such an amazing weekend. Definitely one of my favorite photo ops. And if you watch many of my videos, obviously you know my love of Halloween 3 knows no bounds. Coming up at number 3 goes back to 2013. And that was also at a flashback weekend where I actually got my Dawn of the Dead photo op that had, you know, the 4 leads and George as well. That was a very, very special weekend on so many levels. Dawn of the Dead, one of my top 3 favorite films of all time. And it's also very special to me because that, I obviously didn't know it at the time, but that ended up being the last time, because I'd met him many, many times before, and that was the last time I ever got to see George. Will always be very, very special to me. Coming up at number 2 is probably my favorite photo op of all time. If not, it's, you know, definitely one of the top. And that goes back also to Flashback Weekend, this time to 2014, where Robert Englund donned the Freddy Krueger makeup. And there was no way I was going to miss the opportunity to get a photo of Robert Englund in the Freddy makeup, and I'm so glad I didn't skip out on that. That is literally, I'm just gonna say, it's my favorite photo op I've ever done. Coming in at number 1, and I'm sure it's probably pretty obvious because of the shirt I'm wearing, and that is when I went to see John Carpenter live in Chicago back in July of 2016. That was amazing on so many levels. One, it was the first time I got to meet John Carpenter. Not only am I such a huge fan of John Carpenter's, but also a massive fan of his music. So to hear his music live, to see him performing it, to get to meet him, just the overall experience was so amazing to me on so many levels. And of course, I paid for the VIP thing. It's kind of funny. I got there so early that I was the first one in line. So when you go to meet him before the show, I was the first one, and I also got the first one to pick my seat, which was in the balcony, dead center. I had the perfect view of the stage, of everything. And I'll tell you one thing too, I got there so early they hadn't even started lining people up yet, so I didn't know where to go. So I went inside, and obviously the area where you go was sort of blocked off, but I could hear them practicing. And what were they practicing at that very moment that I happened to walk in? The theme to Escape from New York, my personal favorite John Carpenter film. You know, it's just one of those where, like, you couldn't have it be any more perfect. And not only that, but the John Carpenter live Blu-ray that they put out, they recorded 2 different shows. One, I believe, was the UK show, if I'm not mistaken, and one was the show in Chicago. They recorded a bunch of interviews, or little sound bites that they grabbed real quick. And for those of you who have the Blu-ray, as soon as it starts up, the first person you see in the video is me. The whole experience just could not have been any more perfect. So that is easily my favorite thing from the last 10 years. So let me know some of your favorite events from the last decade. I know I don't have any of the more recent ones, and actually I was going to include them, but again, this list was, I really wanted to keep it down to 10 just to kind of keep it kind of short. It's definitely great going down memory lane, and I'm definitely thankful to have all of these great experiences that I've had. So as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.